Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadron and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our episode today. This is episode 78, and we welcome our guest of hope today, Deborah Cherrey. Deborah is a fellow RTT therapist, and she has been working in her family business for 19 years, when in 2019, she stepped away from sales and she worked from sales to management, and Deborah officially left the corporate world to pursue life coaching with an emphasis on stress management. We all need a little bit more stress management. Her authentic style brings a perfect blend of expertise and approachability that fosters a welcoming environment that will engage and inspire your audience. She combines all the effective methods of coaching, hypnotherapy, stress management, consulting, backgrounds, using scientific-based methods, and new innovative techniques. She works one-on-one in team workshops and stress management programs. Welcome, Deborah. Fran and I are very happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And Deborah, you are in Ontario, right?
Yes, Stratford, Ontario.
Wonderful.
Great. So, Deborah, you've had quite the journey. You started out in the business world with your family business. Can you tell us a little bit about that history and how that morphed into what you do right now with stress?
Sure. Yeah, I was with our family business. I was third generation, as Miranda mentioned, moving up from sales, and then finally as VP. That's where I finished. And when we sold at the end of 2018, which opportune timing for anybody in the bus business to sell, I was pretty shattered, and my values just didn't align with the new company that took us over. And I went on a self-love retreat to Bali, and I came back, and it was like a life-changing journey. And I quit my job. And to be quite honest, I had no idea what I was going to do. So I hired my own coach, and I really fell in love with all that material, the mindset. I fell in love with it, and that's how I got into coaching. And from there, I was introduced to RTT, which, rapid transformational therapy. And it just made sense on how quickly clients could get transformations and how it married so well together with already my mindset coaching. And then from there, just being parts of different organizations, there was the stress management consulting training that was presented to me. And I'm like, that's it. I don't know, especially after a global pandemic hit, change is scary. We've been dealt with massive blows, and it just made sense to me. And I absolutely love it. I love how they all integrate so well together. And I'm just really excited to share information and educate people on stress and stress management.
So the corporate world can be extremely stressful. And so your decision to niche in stress management, how did that fall in place for you?
Yeah, particularly the bus industry, which is where I come from. In my market research with a lot of different businesses, but specifically bus transportation, it's the unpredictability. And right now, there's driver shortages, I'm sure. Business organization wide, there's parts problems, and just the unpredictability of being in that business. It's a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week business. So you're getting calls all hours of the night. You're troubleshooting driver hours of service, government legislation. It's all overwhelming, and there's so many things in the back end of a bus business that you think you order a bus and you just want to go somewhere, and it's just easy as putting a driver and a bus together. And there's so many other facets to that business that I don't think a lot of people realize, and how much legislation really affects your business, especially when it comes to hours of service.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Sorry, Fran.
I can see why the pandemic really would have spearheaded that. I mean, with social distancing and masking and actually the drivers too, really being the forefront of enforcement of masking and all of the rest of that, the supply chain problems. And yeah, definitely. So your family sold the business and it was taken over by another business. You're
That's
saying a
correct.
larger
Yeah.
conglomerate, right? Yeah, which in itself is a lot of change when you've got three generations
Yeah,
all
it's one
doing
of
the same thing and suddenly it's done. I can
yeah.
imagine. So you've got stress on multiple levels there, multiple layers of stress.
Absolutely. There's the five major sources of stress, work being one of them, major life change being another, loss, another, relationships and illness. I didn't have to really deal with, but there's three big ones there that I was dealing with as I transitioned out of my job. So it was overwhelming, and you're so used to a 9 to 5, and now it was developing a new routine. It was just trying to figure out who I was, and what really fueled my passion. And I think that was it. I think I always knew, I was very proud of where our family really got our business to, and the success that we had. But I don't think it was ever my passion. I think I knew I always wanted to impact people more. I was always driven to motivational speakers. I was always excited about helping people. And, I've been told I'm a really great listener and I should have been a therapist, or those types of things. So it was really finding what really made me tick, and this really excites me.
That's great. Yeah, so I can just imagine it's like becoming hyper vigilant in your work when you always have all these stressors showing up, and it's 24/7 and it's unpredictable, and you always have to be ready and always on the go. You can never switch down. So, and I think going through that experience probably is making you an absolute phenomenal therapist today. So how do you tap into your own experience with stress and helping your clients?
I think I can relate to people, especially in the business world, when I talk to businesses and corporations and people in business. I can relate to them on so many levels, and just experiencing as I ended my career in corporate, the physical symptoms I was experiencing. I couldn't eat because it affects your digestion. I wasn't sleeping. I was losing weight, and there are so many physical symptoms of stress that I was experiencing. And when I talk to people who say, I'm really stressed and this is what I'm experiencing, I can relate to that because I've experienced it. I'm not coming in here saying, here's what you need to do for stress management. I've never experienced it. I have experienced those things. And I think that's what really makes me relatable to the people that I serve. And just in speaking engagements in any sort of corporation, we're really always dealing with the same things. We're dealing with employees. We're dealing with clients, difficult clients sometimes. We're dealing with suppliers. Every organization has similar traits. So I can relate to a lot of the people that I talk to.
You know what's super interesting, Deborah, is I was in the world of teaching for a
Mm-hmm.
long, long time, right? And
Sure.
in the school, we deal with the symptoms of stress. We help
Right.
we help kids, with the ball in their hand, or help them
Yeah.
to breathe and all of those things. And yet that's dealing only with the symptom.
Yeah.
We don't get a chance to deal with the root, right? And
Absolutely.
in RTT, this is what we do. We deal with the root. If we can help people to discover why it is that they have such a hard time with X and O, the beginning part, then they don't need to deal with the symptoms later. So,
Absolutely.
do you have any stories of, tell us a success story? Like, it's hard to move people off the mindset of let's deal with the symptom because we're so pharmaceutical oriented that medicine, therapy, everything is dealing with symptoms rather than dealing with the root. So, tell us about, if you can,
Sure.
um, tell us about
Love to.
how an experience you've had with a client or with yourself or whatever,
Sure.
because it's often shocking, right? As a therapist, it's often shocking the root we find that was behind everything else.
Sure, I'd love to. And I think just to add to that, there are those in the moment hacks like using bilateral stimulation or a ball or a stress ball to manage the symptoms you're experiencing now. There's so many other lifestyle things that you can do to prevent stress. We talk about diet, exercise. Those things are all very important for stress management. But using meditation, self-hypnosis on a regular basis can also help you manage stress more effectively. So going into your question, and I apologize for transgressing there. I had a client who was barely getting out of bed, depressed, on medication. Um, and after working with him, as we know, the root cause for him was really not feeling good enough. As a child, he played hockey and, he was doing his best, but the best wasn't good enough, not good enough for his parents. He was benched and not played. So he has this belief that he's not good enough. And after an RTT session on his depression, just wild changes almost immediately. Like he just had this new zest for life. And after 3 concurrent sessions, he's now registered into school. Like he had no idea what he even wanted to do as a career. So he's now registered. He's just starting school in the fall. He found his pathway through RTT is like, what do you want to do? And we can figure out your life's purpose, confidence. So it's just been amazing to watch someone who wasn't getting out of bed is now found a job for the summer, kind of testing out his new career and is going into that pathway. And he's just an incredible, I'm just so proud of him. When you see those results and you're just like, you're like a mama bear sometimes. And I'm just so proud of his progress. And, he's a young man, that maybe didn't have a path and was using substances to mask it, and really had no quality of life when we began. So I'm super excited to see where he takes it, and making sure that we're setting high goals. And I really push my clients to set high goals and mindset and all that sort of thing. So it's been amazing to watch him really thrive now, versus really just trying to get through a day.
I work a lot with emotional eating and people who are quite obese, and the reason behind that is so many times that is their stress relief, that is their coping skills. So I'm pretty sure you see that.
Absolutely. There's the I am not enough. That's the most common one I think that I get. I am not enough. It's crazy how our subconscious minds take in these experiences as kids and we don't even realize it. So as adults, we try and think of, why do I have this trait? Why do I have this behavior? Maybe I'm not pushing myself in life because something is holding me back. So that's why I love RTT so much, to uncover those root causes of why somebody might be experiencing anxiety, or the root cause of depression. It's never what you think it's going to be. I've done a lot of flying, fear of flying, which, anxiety that comes as a result of the fear of flying. Sometimes it doesn't even have to do with a plane. I had a lady who had so much trauma on vacation as a child. It had nothing to do with the plane at all. So it's uncovering those root causes of why you have this fear, anxiety going into a plane, or fear of heights, or any of those things. There's always another story, and no two stories are ever the same. And I'm sure that you understand that as a therapist yourself, but and I think that's the magic of what keeps me excited, because you never know the story that's going to be told in a session, and just helping those clients understand and then be able to reframe it so they can really thrive in life.
I think flying is an interesting thing, because I found that a lot of times people also feel that they don't have control. They have to completely trust somebody else to get on the other side. That's interesting.
Yes, I've experienced that as well.
So you also talk about how we have classified stress as all bad. Stress is bad. Eliminate stress. Take stress out of your life. And again, I talk about it. There's a lot of marketing in that, because if we can sell more pharmaceuticals to eliminate, antidepressants and all of that, there's a lot of big business in classifying stress as only bad. So you also talk about stress as there are lessons within stress that can promote growth and learning. So tell us a little bit about that, if you can.
Yeah, I think, as we know, everything first starts with mindset. So if you think stress is bad for me, that it can cause disease, we know what you think about, you bring about. So if you can fuel stress as a motivator, let's say, and it can be a motivator, if you're doing a speech or a performance, you still get the physical symptoms of stress. Your hands get sweaty, your breath maybe gets shortened, your heart starts to race a little bit. Those are all normal physiological symptoms of stress, but you can also use that as a fuel, as excitement, because your body doesn't know the difference between anxiety or excitement. It actually physiologically is in the body as the same thing. So if you use the mindset, oh, this is like really propelling me to get outside of my comfort zone and grow as a result, you'll find that it's different. Instead of going into anxiety, you can use that as a motivator, to do well in something. But I think if you look back on any challenge that you've ever had, which you would maybe quote unquote say is a stressful situation, I'm sure that you will find lessons in growth. If we look at stress as, if we use the definition of stress, as it arises when something that you care about is at stake, whether it's your work, your relationships, an illness, a loss, or a major life change. I'm sure if you look back on any situation that you really cared about, something happened, you grew as a result of it. You learned something about yourself. You either learned how resilient you are as a result of that. And I use resiliency in the face of, yesterday was the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. A horrific thing to have happen, a tragedy that affected thousands of lives. But as a result, we built connection, we built unity, we built strength. There was hope as a result. So it's not always, you can take a bad situation and still find resiliency through it.
Always looking for that silver lining. I love that. So Deborah, in your own personal journey, when you discovered rapid transformational therapy, how did that help you to switch from corporate world into therapy?
Oh, I think it was like at my coaching business, I felt like there was a missing link. So when I was introduced to RTT through one of my girlfriends, I was like, this is it. Because, mindset coaching is a lot about mindset. And we talk about the mindset of stress, but the power of the mind. And it really was the missing key, because you can do all the work, you can do all the mindset, you can do the affirmations and gratitude and energy work or whatever that looks like in a coaching business. But to have RTT really go right to the root cause, to be able to reframe it, to change your subconscious mind and your beliefs in order to have lasting change was like icing on the cake for my business. And I knew it was going to be a game changer. And it has been. Just watching my clients thrive just after one session is amazing to me.
Yeah, I absolutely love that as well.
Yeah.
Lots of coaching programs, can go 3 months or more. But just, after 1 or 2 or 3 sessions of RTT, it's just amazing to see the fantastic results and how quickly it can happen.
Mhm. I agree, 100%. Yeah, it's
You
a miracle,
you
right?
can't knock it, right? It works. You see the results, and I think there's just so many myths around hypnotherapy that some people just haven't embraced yet. So it's just educating people on how self-hypnosis can calm you in a stressful situation. I'm not even saying a full RTT session, but just doing self-hypnosis is even better than meditation, because again, it's getting right into the subconscious mind where you're going to create the lasting change if you stick with it.
Yeah, agreed. Is there anything else you'd like to share about what you do, or how you um, anything else about your coaching business that you'd like to share with our audience that we haven't had a chance to ask you about yet?
Oh, I offer one-on-one sessions. I offer group sessions. I offer keynote speaking and workshops for businesses. So yeah, if anything resonates with you for stress management, you're a business leader that is looking to have a seminar or workshop for your groups, please reach out. If you're a conference, if you are a conference organizer, sorry, I do keynote speeches, also workshops within conferences. So again, find me on LinkedIn and please reach out. I'm happy to share my knowledge and expertise with you.
So Deborah, tell me more about these workshops that you do for corporations and the result of that when they start to manage stress within the corporation. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so I offer 1 to 3 hour full day workshops. It's very customized to what people are experiencing. Because I can incorporate time management, stress management techniques. There's so many things that in an organization they're fought with. So it's very customized to every organization. But I give them tips, worksheets, not workshops, worksheets, exercises to do. So obviously stress management techniques. A lot of people don't even know what stress is. So really letting them know what stress is, what are the symptoms of stress, and what happens to you physically if you get into chronic stress, and which we know leads to increased chances of heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, heart disease. So it's really educating people, because I don't think people really know what stress is or where stress comes from. And the thing is, stress is always going to be there. So it's effectively managing your stress, getting ahead of it, and also having in the moment techniques to use if you're experiencing stress. So really educating people and giving them lots of resources and takeaways as a result. But organizations, if they're not managing stress, are met with high absentee, high turnover, low morality. All those things are affected when you're not effectively managing your stress in your workplace.
So what tips do you have for an organization specifically, just without giving everything away? What tips do you have for them as an organization? Because I know you have to touch the individual in understanding how they can manage their stress, but as an organization, how can they help their employees to work in a less stressful environment?
Sure. I think as a leader, communication with your employees is number one. I think fostering an environment that is open into communication and recognizing where the stress is coming from, whether it's offering a work-life balance that you can work from home, offering a hybrid solution. I think a lot of organizations, as a result of COVID, have offered that. But on a go forward basis, how are they managing the work-life balance for their employees? Do they offer wellness programs? Do they offer stress management programs and educate people about what they can do? I really think those are three. Communication in any of my market research has been probably number one, because times are changing and we have to adapt to it. And certainly after the pandemic, leaders have to look at their workforce differently, because we've just experienced something unimaginable in the last 3 years and something unprecedented.
And how do
You
you
also,
find COVID? Sorry, Fran, I'm keeping jumping in. Go ahead.
you also work with teens, right? With
Teams? Teams.
teen.
Teams. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, so those are same thing, like going into an organization, doing a workshop, giving them all the education, tips, tricks on managing stress. We do assessments on stress just to see where people are at, because we talk about the 5 major causes of stress, and if you've experienced many of those, your result is going to be you're probably highly stressed and at risk for health problems if you don't manage it effectively.
So how do you think that the pandemic changed businesses?
Oh my goodness. I think they were forced to pivot quickly, for obviously, if you were a service business that was allowed to stay open, there was definitely protocols that you had to do, the masks. I think it caused a lot of worry for people who really saw the pandemic as something as very threatening. Really affected your mindset around your own health. Obviously, I think it increased anxiety when it comes to your family. If you were going out to still work every day, healthcare workers, I think that really affected the concern for not only yourself, but your family. And especially if you had elderly parents and, you had your bubbles, but if you're a healthcare worker, I just think the anxiety was through the roof during the pandemic. And it's something, anxiety is often when we don't go with the flow of life and we're trying to control things, but this was something that we had no control over.
Yeah.
So when it came to businesses, they had to pivot. I think the mental health of the workforce was deeply affected. And then working from home in isolation was another thing. I work from home all the time, but just even watching my kids come home, because they had to, homeschool basically or do online learning, they were affected. You don't have that support, you don't have that connection, and we are made for connection. So watching even my kids struggle when the pandemic first hit was hard. It's hard to navigate change. Change can be scary if you cannot wrap your mindset around it.
That reminds me of the book that we were introduced to during our studies in rapid transformational therapy by Johann Hari, Lost Connections.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that a lot during the pandemic, how important connection is. And suddenly connection became this.
Yes.
And the lack of human interaction, the lack of hugs,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of that office, corporate team building that was physical and is now over internet. I'm very curious to see down the line how that would have affected us socially and corporations in the world.
Oh, I think technology is great. And I think, obviously I can talk to you, your province is away from me. I think it's great. And even being able to deliver online sessions has been a lifesaver for, RTT practitioners, that you can do hypnosis over Zoom, but there's still something about holding somebody's hand or hugging someone, like you say, or just the physical energy of being in the same room as somebody, because it's very difficult. You know, I'm an empath, so I really feel a lot of energy. So it's very difficult sometimes online to really gauge somebody's energy or to inspire somebody in a way online versus being in the room with a group of people. You know, when it's high energy and you're delivering a speech or something and the energy is so high and everybody's captivated and everybody's working together. I love that energy. So getting back, you know, speaking in front of groups in a live setting, I thrive off of, because you feed off of people's energy,
Right.
and you can feel that. And I think that's what makes technology difficult for the online presence in a workforce, because how can leaders, how do I know that you're doing okay? Because I can't physically feel your energy. I think there's something about that, you know, I think that's why communication for leaders right now is absolutely pivotal in their businesses.
I know a fellow who during the pandemic had a mental breakdown because he used to go to the office every day and do very responsible work. If he didn't do his job well, he could blow up something. That's how serious
Oh,
it was. So he really
wow.
had to concentrate a lot on the work he was doing. And
Sure.
now he was working at home, and he has 3 little kids at home. And they were off school and they were interrupting him the entire time. And he felt such a big responsibility for what he did that he had a complete mental breakdown, and he ended up, before anybody else went back to the office, he said, I have to be in the office. I have to do that. So there are a lot of layers of the stressors that I think that caused. And then fear. Tell me about fear and stress.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think anytime, well, I think that goes back to the anxiety, really, anxiety and fear. Um, but it can hold us back. It can stop us in our tracks. So I think understanding why you might have fear of something, understanding the root cause of fears. Um, I'm afraid of mice, but I'm okay with it because I don't care to change it. So I think it has to be a desire to want to learn and really go deep within on why we might have a fear of, whether it's heights, flying, um, what uh, what other fears? I'm kind of drawing a blank now, but
Yeah.
you know, it all goes back to, what's the root cause? Why do I have this fear? And it's usually never to do with the actual fear. It's really interesting to me.
And to me, fear is not something concrete. It's almost predicting something that you don't know for sure is going to happen.
It's almost a
It's all in your
story.
mind.
Yeah, it's almost a story that you're telling yourself. Excuse me. So if you can rewrite that story, you can rewrite that belief
Exactly.
on the story that you're creating. Our minds are so powerful. We have like 10,000 thoughts that go through our minds at any moment in time, and once you start believing your thought, that's where the trouble can arise, if it's not a good thought, if it's not a productive thought. So it's recognizing the thought that you might be having at any given moment when it comes to fear, anxiety, or stress, really.
Mhm.
What could go wrong? What could go right?
Right.
You know,
Right. And catching that thought,
catching it,
catching the thought, looking at the thought, maybe acknowledging where it's coming from, and
even
you know,
feeling it in your body. Like, where is
feeling
it coming
feeling it.
from?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do that a lot in RTT, is
Mhm.
feel it in your body and talk to it, right?
Yeah.
Talk to where it's coming from, and change the belief about it. And if it is a fear belief, change the belief, and somehow to create for yourself, a new belief, more maybe an adventure belief, or an exciting. It's exciting. It's an adventure. It's a learning belief. It's a growth. All of those
Absolutely.
can head that fear off at the path, and change it from ballooning into something that's really unmanageable. Because, like you said, not not able to get out of bed in the morning, um quite the thing. It's quite the it's really stymied a person's life to the point where I don't belong, I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
I'm different than everyone else. It's quite the thing.
So
There's
Deborah,
this,
sorry,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there is this exercise in that I teach where you kind of you recognize the thought or you recognize the feeling, and you do it on a scale from 1 to 10, and then you go inside to that spot and watch it as kind of like a spinning top. Which way is it spinning? So then you bring it kind of outside of yourself, and then you make it spin the other way, and then bring it back inside your body. And it's kind of powerful because you're transforming the thought as like you're unspiraling it and making it go a different direction, and then identifying the thought that would go with a different direction. So it's a kind of a powerful exercise.
You also have an online questionnaire to determine people's stress levels. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's a 10 I think it's only 10 questions. Yeah, you can just go right on to my website. My new website's not, but this link will take you to that assessment. It's called Assess Your Stress. And it's just a 10 questionnaire. It gives you the scoring mechanism, and then it just kind of rates you whether you're low, moderate, or high level of stress. And certainly if you are moderate or high, I would get you to check in and see where that's stemming from, and whether you need further support.
So the link for that is Deborah-Cherrey with an EY at
EY.
mykajabi.com. Deborah-Cherrey at mykajabi.com.
Correct.
And I'll put a link on the video as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And then one last message of hope for our audience.
I think, when you're in the thick of it, because I've definitely been there, when you are in the darkness, it seems so overwhelming. But if you can transition your mindset to think of what I could be learning and growing as a result of this, it's not happening to me. Why is this happening for me? What can I learn and grow as a result? How can I become a better person? What is this teaching me? I think you can look at challenging situations in a new light and thrive and build resilience as a result of them.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us. It's been wonderful talking about anxiety and depression. It's so important that we gain knowledge about it, and the understanding that it's a fact of life. Stress is a fact of life, but it doesn't have to be a debilitating fact of life. It can be an invigorating, and depending on how we use it and how we understand it, it's still important to have it in our lives because it's a motivator. It's like you said, and if we can use it correctly, we can have an adventure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so for anybody who would like to learn more about stress management for yourself, for your corporation, for your team, please be in touch with Deborah. You can find her on LinkedIn, Deborah Cherrey, again, Cherrey. And I will put a link to her LinkedIn as well as it's not a questionnaire, it's
the assessment, the assess your stress. Yes.
Assessment. I should have written that down. A link to the assessment. Deborah, our website will be launched soon. And so can you give us your web address as well, just for in a couple of weeks when that's up and running?
Yeah, it's coming very soon. It's just going to be www.deborahcherryaltogether.com. Easy peasy.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Deborah. It was wonderful.
Thank you
And
so much.
Congratulations with the amazing job that you do.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Fran. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. If you like us, subscribe, and we will bring you hope next time.
See you soon.